Hello my scholars and welcome to the Myschool channel. My name is Angela and in this video we're going to be tackling the JAMB CBT past question for English language for the year 2000. Please stay with us, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Myschool channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be tackling the JAMB CBT past question for English language for the year 2000. So we're going to begin with questions 1 to 30. So let's dive right into it. So for question 1, it says, choose the option that has the same vowel sound as the one represented by the letters underlined. So the word is boat, right? And the letters underlined are O and A. Okay? And then for the options, we have option A, board, option B, bought, option C, go, and option D, glory. Okay, so let's go to the board to transcribe each of the words. Okay, so we're going to begin with the first word, boat. Okay, the letters underlined are O and A, and it is pronounced as O, boat. Okay, so the vowel sound there is the diphthong O. Okay, it's pronounced O. You can see it in words like show, grow, know. Okay, now let's look at option A. Option A has board. Okay. And this is the vowel letters there that we have to transcribe to see if it is similar to the word boat. So it is transcribed as O. Okay, it's the long vowel sound. Then we have bought as well. So we are transcribing this, the ones in the middle of the word, and it's pronounced as bought. Okay, it's also the long vowel sound O. Okay, bought. Then we have go, go. So it's similar to that. We also have the diphthong O in the word go, right? Go, no. Whenever you see a vowel letter at the end of a word, right? If it ends a word, it's usually a diphthong or a long vowel sound. In this case, it's a diphthong go. Then for glory, glory has the long vowel sound O, glory, okay? So we have O as well in this sound. So we can see that it's in option C. We have O, similar to the word in the question. They both have the diphthong O. So now let's go to the screen to mark our answer. Alright, so from the transcription of each of the words, you can see that the answer to this question is obviously option C. Question number 2. Again, we have to choose the option that has the same vowel sound as the word underlined. Okay, so in this particular one, the entire word is underlined and it's pronounced air. Okay, so option A, we have hair. Option B, we have her. Option C, we have here, and option D, we have fire. So let's go to the board to look at each of the options. All right, let's start with the word. The word air is transcribed as this. It's just a single diphthong air, okay? This should not be confused with the vowel sound ear, okay? Sometimes we often confuse these diphthongs because they sound similar, especially to us Nigerian speakers of English, okay? So let's look at option A. Option A is pronounced as hair, okay? It has the sound in front of it, but it has the diphthong air coming after it, okay? Then for option B, we have her, okay? It's the long sound, her. Then for option C, we have here. Now we have this particular diphthong in this word. It's pronounced here, okay? E-a. It's a glide from the sound E to the schwa sound. So it's different from this. This is okay? This is ear, here. Then for this one, we have the diphthong ire, okay? Ire, fire, okay? So from this transcription, we can see that this is similar to this, okay? Let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So from the explanation, we can see that option A is the answer to this question. Question number 3. Again, we have to select the option that has the same vowel sound as the one represented by the letters underlined. So the word is pleasure, okay? And the options, we have pliable. Option B, we have pleats. Option C, we have plenary. And option D, we have jeopardy, okay? So let's go to the board to look at each of the options. All right, so we're going to start with the word. The word is pronounced pleasure, okay? It's the S sound. Pleasure, okay? So the word pliable has a diphthong there. we have ire, pliable. Okay? Then for option B, it's pronounced pleats. Okay? It's the long E sound. Pleats. Okay? Then for option C, we have plenary. Plenary. Okay? So in this particular one, we are looking at two different vowel sounds in the word. For the first one, we have the E sound, and then here we have the schwa sound. Plenary. Okay? Then for the last one, we have jeopardy. Okay? The first one, the first vowel sound is pronounced as A, right? While the second one is the schwa sound as well, jeopardy. Okay? So from this transcription, we can see that option A and option D both have the air sound. You can see jeopardy is just like leopard, jeopardy. Of course, sometimes we pronounce it as jeopardy, but it's actually wrong. That's the wrong pronunciation. It's pronounced as jeopardy, just like it's leopard and not leopard. Okay? So now let's go to the screen to mark our answer. So from the explanation, we can see that the answer to this question is option D. Question number 4. Again, we are looking for the word that has the same vowel sound as the letters underlined. So this word we have thunder. Then option A is prefer. Option B, differ. Option C, confer. And option D, defer. Now let's go to the board to look at the explanation. So for the word thunder, okay, there are actually two vowel sounds in this word, but we are focusing on the one that is underlined. And whenever we have ER at the end of the word, we usually assume that it's a schwa sound that is there, the shortest vowel sound in the English language, as in teacher, lawyer, and also when we have a word that ends with OR, as in doctor, okay? We assume that it's the schwa sound, teacher, lawyer, doctor. But in this case, we have a lot of exceptions to the rule because we're only looking for one of them that has that ER sound that is short as the one we find in the word thunder. The other ones are exceptions to the rule. So let's look at each of them. For option A, it's pronounced as prefer, to prefer something. So it ends with this sound, the long sound. Then we have differ, right? When something differs from the other, okay? So in this case, we have the schwa sound, okay? Then confer, to confer, is similar to this. We have the long sound again. And then for option D, it's defer. You can see that this and this are similar in pronunciation, except for the final vowel sound, which makes them minimal pairs. Whenever we have minimal pairs in English language, there is usually just one sound that is different from the other. It's important to note this so that you can know the difference between one word and another, the pronunciation from the pronunciation, okay? This is differ and this is defer. They are different in meaning, okay? They carry different meaning. So from the transcription of the vowel sounds, we can see that this is similar to this. So now let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. Right from the explanation, we can see that option B is the answer to this question. Question 5. Again, we have to choose the option that has the same vowel sound as the underlined letters in the word. So this word is pronounced tear, okay? For option A, we have there. Option B, we have care. Option C, we have here. And option D, we have where. Okay, so let's go to the board to analyze the options. All right, so for the word tear, it has the vowel sound ear. Okay, so this should not be confused with the verb tear. Okay, when you tear something, it has this sound. Okay, but for the noun tear, as in teardrop, you have the sound ear. Okay, so now let's look at the options. For the word there, it's pronounced as air. Okay, it's similar to this. Then we have care, it's pronounced care. Okay. And then we have air as well. But for option C, it's pronounced here. I am here. Okay? So we have this. Then option D is pronounced wear. What are you going to wear today? Okay? So you have air again. So from the transcription of the vowel sounds, we can see that this is similar to this. So let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. All right, from the analysis, we can see that the answer to this question is option C. Question 6. Choose from the options the word that has the same consonant sound as the one represented by the underlined. So this particular word is pronounced thought, okay? The underlined one is T and H, all right? Then option A, we have theater. Option B, we have thought. Option C, we have weather. And option D, we have fate, okay? So let's go to the board to transcribe each of the words. All right, so we're going to begin with the word thought, okay? Thought has the consonant sound, okay? When you're pronouncing the sound, you put your tongue against your upper front teeth. Thought. Okay? Then let's look at the options. We have theater. Okay? Again, you put your tongue against your upper front teeth when you're pronouncing this part of the word. It's pronounced theater. Okay? So you also have the sound. Okay? Then we have option B, thought. Okay? So both sounds that seem to sound similar to that is okay, it should not be confused with, okay? It can be very difficult for us Nigerians to pronounce it because we don't have this sound in our native languages, okay? But you should not confuse it with that, okay? When you pronounce you're putting your tongue against the roof of your mouth and not when you're pressing your tongue against the upper front teeth. So that's the difference. Now for option C, this sound is actually pronounced the. Okay, it's similar to this except that this one is voiced. Okay, when you're pronouncing it, your vocal cord vibrates. Okay, but when you pronounce this, it doesn't vibrate. It's voiceless against. All right. Then for option D, we have fate. Again, we have the sound. Okay, so from this transcription, we can see that this is similar to this. Let's go to the screen to mark our answer. So from the explanation, we can see that option A is the answer to this question. Question 7. Again, we have to choose from the option the word that has the same consonant sound as the letters on the line. So this word is pronounced caliph, okay? So option A, we have presently. Option B, we have perhaps. Option C, we have powerful. And option D, we have opponents, okay? So now let's go to the board to transcribe each of the words. So we are going to begin with caliph, okay? When you transcribe this word, the letters on the line has the f sound, okay? When we have PH together in most words, it's pronounced as in philosophy, physics, okay? Then look at presently. Presently has the p sound. That's the closest one. It's pronounced p. Then the other consonant sound, we have z. Then we have t. And so on and so forth. We have a lot of other ones. Then for perhaps, we have a lot of p sound there, okay? Then for powerful, we have both p and f, okay? And then for the last one, opponents, we have the p sound as well and so many other consonant sounds, okay? But the reason this question is set up this way is because people might often confuse this as calip because of the letter P in that word, okay? So do not be confused by that. It's pronounced caliph, okay? F sound. So from the option we can see, so from the transcription, we can see that f is the closest to this. So let's go back to the screen to mark our answer. So from the analysis of each of these words, we can see that option C is the answer to this question. Question 8. Select the word that has the same pattern of stress as the given word. Okay, so we have the word enormous. It's pronounced enormous. Then we have interest, solution, stupidly, character. Okay, so it's important to note that stress is the degree of emphasis that you place on the particular word. Okay, so this question requires you to find the word that has the same stress pattern as the given word. So when it comes to stress, there are no specific rules for stress, but there is a general rule. The rule is that for nouns, stress is usually placed on the first syllable, except if there is a weak vowel in it. When we're talking about weak vowel, we mean vowels like E and the schwa sound right? So whenever you find this in a particular syllable, it's important for you to avoid that syllable, except all of the syllables in the word have weak vowels in them. Then you have to revert back to what you normally know. But for nouns, stress is usually placed on the first syllable. If there is a weak vowel, it moves on to the next. But for verbs, the reverse is the effect. It starts from the last syllable. If there is a weak vowel there, you move on to the next. But this rule doesn't apply all the time. The reason for this is that sometimes when you add prefixes and suffixes to a word, the stress tends to shift from one syllable to another. So the best thing to do is to use your judgment whenever you are solving stress. Practice a lot of stress questions, right? With a lot of practice, you will get a hang of it. Also try to pronounce the words as loud as you can. When you pronounce it as loud as you can, you'll be able to know where the stress is. Pronounce it the way you usually use the word in day-to-day conversation, right? Using your judgment, you may be able to identify where the stress is placed. But practice is important. With a lot of practice, you'll get used to it. Okay, so let's begin with this question. So this word is pronounced as enormous, okay? Enormous. From the pronunciation, you can see that the stress is on no, enormous, okay? Then for the word interest, you can see that the stress is placed on the first syllable, interest. Then for option B, you have solution. The stress is on the second syllable, solution. Then we have stupidly. You can see that the stress is placed on the first syllable. Then we have character. Again, it's placed on the first syllable. Okay? So you can also use the weak vowel alternative, right? You can see in some of them, you can see weak vowels here. Solution. Here you have a weak vowel as well. Stupidly. You have E here, you have E here. Okay? Character. A weak vowel here, a weak vowel here. You can see this is why the stress is moving away from the weak vowels. So you can also use that too whenever you're solving stress questions. But of course, this doesn't work all the time. You can use a combination of different rules that you're familiar with to get at the answer. But most importantly, you make use of your judgment. Okay? So from the transcription of these words, you can see that the one that has a similar stress pattern to enormous is solution, because both of them are stressed on the second syllable. So the answer to this question is option B. Question 9. Again, we have to select the word that has the same pattern of stress as the given word. So the given word is honor. So the stress is placed on the first syllable, honor. Okay? Then for option A, we have hotel. The stress is placed on the second syllable, tel. Then we have hyena. Okay? Hyena. The stress is on ye. Okay? Hyena. Then we have human. The stress is placed on the first syllable. And then for option D, it's pronounced humane. Again, it's important to note when you have minimal pairs that the stress shifts. For one of the word, the stress might be on the first syllable, but for the other one, it will be on the second syllable. These words are minimal pairs because the only difference is in one sound, okay? And it's in that vowel sound here. This is A, this is A. Human, humane. Okay, the stress shifts as well. Okay, so the same thing goes for other minimal pairs. Okay, so from the stress placements in each of these, we can see that for option C, the stress is on the first syllable, just like in the given word. Okay, so the answer to this question is option C. Question 10. Again, we have to look for the word that has the same stress pattern as the given word. The word is quality. So from the pronunciation, you can see that the stress is placed on the first syllable, quality. Then option A, we have guarantee. Okay, the stress is placed on the T. Then option B, we have accepted. Stress is placed on the second syllable, accepted. Again, it's important to note that when you have A starting a word, like in after, above, it's usually a short sound that is there. Above, after. Then for bachelor, the stress is on the first syllable. Then for the word related, the stress is on the second syllable, late. Again, you can see a pattern of weak vowels in different places in the sentence. Bachelor, you have a lot of weak vowels here. Even for accepted, when you have ed at the end of a word, it's either E or the short sound, okay? So in this case too, it's a weak vowel there. That's why the stress avoids those syllables in the word. So from the transcription, we can see that the stress pattern that is similar to this is option C, because both of them are stressed on the first syllable. So our answer to this question is option C. Question 11. Again, we have to select the word that has the same stress pattern as the given word. So the given word is education. Then we have duplicity. Then we have economics. Then option C is elaborate. Then option D, conjectural. Okay, so for multisyllabic words, there are certain rules that you can apply for certain questions like this. So let's go to the board to see some of these rules. All right, here for the first rule, they say for words that end with ION, IAC, and IC, okay, stress tends to be placed on the penultimate syllable. When we are talking about penultimate syllable, we are talking about the syllable that comes before the last one, penultimate, the syllable before the last. So let's look at the words. For the word attention, attention, it ends with ION. The stress is on the second syllable before the last, on 10, attention. Then we have caution. It's on the second syllable before the last. Obviously, there's just 2 syllables, but the stress can be on the syllable with the ION. Then for IAC, we have maniac, maniac. Then we have demoniac. You can see the stress is placed on the syllable for the last. Then for IC, we have moronic and aesthetic. Okay, stress is placed on the second syllable before the last, on the penultimate syllable. Then another rule, for words that end with TY and ATE, stress tends to be placed on the antepenultimate syllable. That is the third syllable from the last. So we can see intensity, intensity, stress is placed on 10, right? 1, 2, third syllable before the last. Rigidity, rigidity. Then we have elaborate and communicate, communicate. So from these words, we can see that these are 2 rules that you can apply. But again, you can see that I made use of the word tends. So it doesn't happen all the time. There are obviously exceptions to these rules. Again, it's important to use your judgments when it comes to questions like this. But these rules can help you in some cases. Okay, so let's go back to the screen. All right, so for the word education, it ends with ION. So the stress is on the second syllable for the last, the penultimate syllable, education. When you pronounce it, you can even see that the stress is there, education. Then for option A, duplicity, duplicity. So the stress is on the third syllable before the last, the antepenultimate syllable. Whenever you have a word that ends with TY, it's on the third syllable before the last. Again, it's important to note that you can see that there are a lot of weak vowels. In all the syllables, there are weak vowels. So when there are weak vowels in all of them, you forget about the rule of weak vowels. You have to place stress in one of the syllables, right? So you go back to the original rule. All of them are on an equal footing, okay? You do not need to apply that rule. So this is an exception to that case of the weak vowel rule. Whenever all of them have a weak vowel, you do not use that rule anymore because you have to place stress on something. Then for option B, economics, economics. Whenever it ends with IC, obviously there is a plural morpheme. The plural morpheme doesn't affect where the stress is placed, okay? So in this case, the stress is on no. Again, it's important to note that for each of these syllables, you have weak vowels here, 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 and here. This is the only syllable with no weak vowel. Economics, okay? You have short sounds in this and this, and then you have the short E sound here. Then for elaborate, elaborate. Again, when it ends with ATE, the stress is on the third syllable before the last. Elaborate. It's not on rate, it's not on bo, it's on la. Right? Elaborate. Then we have conjectural. Conjectural. For this one, the stress is on the second syllable. Conjectural. Again, when you look at it, you can see a lot of short sounds. Con, jack. It's only here that you don't find the weak vowel. You have a weak vowel here, and you have a weak vowel here. Conjectural. From the analysis of these options, we can see that option B and education have similar stress in the sense that they are both stressed on the third syllable. So our answer to this question is option B. Question 12. Identify the word that has the stress on the second syllable. Option A, we have reproduce. Option B, we have always. Option C, we have result. Option D, we have understand. Okay, so let's look at the stress pattern for each of them. For option A, it's pronounced reproduce. Okay, reproduce. The stress is on the third syllable. Again, you can see a lot of weak vowels there. Option B, we have always. Always. Stress is on the first syllable. Then for option C, we have result. Result. Okay? The stress is on the second syllable. Okay? There's a weak vowel on the first. Then option B, we have understand. Understand. Okay? Stress is on the third syllable. So from the analysis of the stress pattern, we can see that the answer to this question is option C, because stress is on the second syllable. Question 13. Identify the word that has a different stress pattern from the others. Option A, we have integral. Option B, we have intimate. Option C, we have discuss. And option D, we have accelerate. Okay, so let's look at the stress pattern for each of them. For the word integral, the stress is on the first syllable. Again, they are all weak vowels. Okay, so when all of them are weak vowels, the rule doesn't apply. The stress is on the first syllable. Then for the word intimate, stress again is on the first syllable because they are all weak vowels. Then for option C, we have discuss. You can see there is a weak vowel there. But remember, when you have a minimal pair, this word has a minimal pair, as in discuss. Okay? It has to sound different so that you know the difference between the two of them. For the word discuss, the stress is on the second syllable. But for discuss, it has to be on the first syllable so that you'll be able to differentiate between the two of them. Okay? So it's pronounced discuss. This is pronounced discuss. Then we have accelerate. Accelerate. When a word ends with ATE, remember the stress is on the antepenultimate syllable, the third syllable from the last, which is in S. Accelerate. Sorry. Which is in S, as in accelerate. Okay? So from the transcription, we can see that option D has a different stress pattern. All of the rest of them have stress on the first syllable, but for option D, the stress is on the second syllable. So our answer to this question is option D. Question 14. Fill the gap with the most appropriate option from the list provided. Without a relentless campaign, we might dash sure of victory in the race for the National Assembly. Option A, never have been. Option B, have never be. Option C, never had been. And option D, be never. Okay, so the answer to this question is option A. The reason for this is that this is a conditional statement. When we are talking about conditional statements, we are talking about hypothetical situations, things that never happened in the past. But assuming something had happened, that would have been the case. So, assuming there was no relentless campaign, they wouldn't have been sure of victory. Okay? It's something that did not happen in the past. They had a relentless campaign. But assuming they did not have that relentless campaign, they would not have been sure of victory. So in that case, when you have a conditional statement, a statement that is expressing an hypothetical situation, you make use of the type 3 conditional, which is also known as the perfect conditional. That sentence has to have the present perfect tense to fill it and not the past perfect. You do not use never had been. You make use of never have been. The present perfect, have, not had. Okay? So in this case, the best option to fill in the gap is option A, never have been. Without a relentless campaign, we might never have been sure of victory in the race for the National Assembly. So our answer to this question is option A. Do you know you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past question? All you need to do is to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now on to question 15. Again, this is another fill in the gap question. To check desertification in the arid zones, dash trees should be planted. A, drought proof, B, drought resistant, C, drought effective, and D, drought resistant. Okay, so the answer to this question is option B, drought resistant trees. Okay, so the reason for that is that drought resistant is an idiomatic expression. It's a common expression that you use to refer to trees that are planted in deserts, okay, that resist drought. Okay, they can withstand drought for a very long period of time. We are not making use of drought proof because those trees are not completely immune to drought. They can withstand it for a long period of time. So our answer to this question is option D, drought resistant. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 16. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. I like the character that played the role of a political dash at the last convention of our party. Option A, turncoats. Option B, turncoats. Option C, turncoats. And option D, turncoats. So the answer to this question is option C, turncoats. Turncoat is the idiomatic expression. It is spelled as T-U-R-N, turn. Okay, so a turncoat is a person who changes political affiliations on a whim, right? It changes sides, switches allegiances on a whim, right? Without regard for the importance of loyalty. So the answer to this question is option C, turncoat. Question 17. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. The man declared his intention from the dash. A. Outset, B. Inset, C. Onset, and D. Offset. So the answer to this question is option A. Outset. He declared his intention from the outset. Outset means from the beginning or the start of something. Sometimes we make use of onset. Onset is still appropriate, but the most appropriate is outset. You make use of onset when you are referring to something that has a negative connotation, like from the onset of an illness, from the onset of an economic downturn. That's when you make use of the word onset. But use outset when you're talking about the start or the beginning of something, right? Something that doesn't have a negative connotation. Then you use inset when you're talking about maps and diagram. It's a term used to refer to something within a map or a diagram. Then for offset, offset is different. Offset means to counterbalance something, right? To offset something, to offset the cost of something. That's when you make use of the word offset. So the answer to this question is option A, outset. Question 18. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. The team manager told us that the race could only be won by the dash. A. Flat-footed, B. Barefooted, C. Swift-footed, and D. Four-footed. Okay, so we're looking for something that explains how a race can be won, right? You have to be able to run very fast. So that's the case. So in this case, it can be flat-footed. Someone who has a flat foot may not even be able to run fast, okay? We are talking about someone whose feet is flat, doesn't have that curvature under the feet. Then option B says barefooted. When you're running barefooted, you won't be able to run fast, so it can't fill in that gap. Then for option C, we have swift-footed. Swift-footed means being able to run very quickly, right? Someone who can run very quickly is swift-footed. So that seems like the answer. Then four-footed doesn't have any meaning, okay? It is not a common word or expression used. So the answer to this question is option C, swift-footed. Question 19. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. The new school is not provided with dash for science practicals. A, enough equipment, B, equipments, C, an equipment, option D, enough equipment. Okay, so when we are referring to equipment, the plural is equipment because equipment is an uncountable noun. So when we have uncountable noun, we do not add the plural morpheme s or es, depending on the case, to that word. So it's similar to words like furniture, baggage, luggage, information. So all of these words, you don't add the plural morpheme s, okay? When you're talking about the plural of the word, you can add a unit of measurement in front of it, okay? But that is not, you don't have to use it all the time. You don't have to add a unit of measurement all the time, just like in this case. In this case, you have to choose one that can fill in that gap, okay? The best one to fill in the gap is enough equipment because we're talking about a lot of equipment, right? That is needed for science practicals, okay? So you need a plural. You can't use option C, although option C is correct. It's the appropriate use of the word equipment. It's not option C because we need a plural to fill in this gap. So the answer to this question is option A, enough equipment. Question 20. Again, we have to look for the option that can fill that gap. Elisa witnessed the largest dash of writers at any convention in recent times. A, turnaround, B, turnover, C, turnout, and D, turn on. So the answer to this question is option C, turnout. When we're talking about turn around, we're talking about a change or reversal of fortune, right? When something witnesses a turnaround, you're talking about something changed, right? Then turnover is a return on investment. It means return on investment. He received the greatest turnover in the last year. So he received the greatest profit or the greatest return on investment. Turnout is used when you're talking about people who appear to an occasion, who come, who turn up or show up for an occasion. So it's appropriate in this case. Elisa witnessed the largest turnout of writers at any convention in recent times. Option D, turn on, is not a phrasal verb. It's not a common phrasal verb. So our answer to this question is option C, turnout. Question 21. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. The politicians were dashed by the press. A, marooned, B, ridiculed, C, eclipsed, and D, ostracized. So we are looking for an option that explains what the press has done to a certain group of politicians. So option A is marooned. Marooned means to be separated on an island or in a separate place, to be trapped somewhere. That's what it means to be marooned. So in this case, it can't fit this context because the press doesn't maroon politicians. They don't separate them on an island. Then ridiculed. Ridiculed means to mock, right? To mock somebody using your words or your behavior. So that could be the answer to the question. Option C says eclipsed. Eclipse means to be completely blocked by celestial body when you're talking about eclipse of the sun, eclipse of the moon. Then ostracized means to be taken out of society, right? That's what it means to ostracize someone, to segregate someone. So in this case, what the press normally does to politicians is to ridicule them, to mock them, maybe because of their policies or what they do. So the best answer to this question is option B, ridiculed. Question 22. Again, we are to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. There are several dash in the farmyard. A, sheep, B, ewe, C, lamb, and D, goats. So we are looking for a word that is a plural because we have the modifier several. Whenever you have a modifier, a pre-modifier several, we are talking about a plural noun that should fill in the gap. The plural noun should come next after the word several. So the only option that is plural is option A, sheep, as the plural of sheep is sheep. All the other ones are in the singular form. So the answer to this question is option A, sheep. Question 23. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. Aldo fought with his dash brother. Option A, senior. Option B, older. Option C, bigger. And option D, elder. So the answer to this question is option D, elder. Oftentimes, we make use of senior or older brother, but this is not appropriate for the context. Whenever you are talking about a brother that is older than you make use of elder brother. That is the best adjective to describe a brother that is older than you. So the answer to this question is option D, elder. Question 24. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. The dark continent was an dash for Africa. A, abuse, B, enigma, C, eclectic, and D, epithet. So option A says abuse. Oftentimes we make use of abuse to refer to insults. But abuse actually means the misuse of something, right? When you abuse your power or abuse a drug, you are misusing it, okay? So you don't say you abuse someone, okay? And again, it's not also appropriate for this context because you can say the dark continent was an abuse for Africa, okay? Doesn't make sense in that context. Option B says enigma. Enigma is not the appropriate word to fill in this gap because the dark continent was a term that was given by Europeans to Africa because they felt like they could not penetrate the region. They knew nothing about Africa, so they referred to Africa as the dark continent. So it is not an enigma for the African people, rather an enigma for the Europeans. So that is not the appropriate word to fill in that context. Then option C, eclectic, is an adjective, okay? We don't need an adjective in this case, right? Eclectic actually means broad. Again, it doesn't fit this context. And it is also an adjective. You can't put an adjective behind an article. You need a noun in this particular case. So option D says epithets. Epithet means nickname. A nickname, a label for something. So the dark continent was a label for Africa. It was a nickname for Africa. So the best answer to this question is option D, epithets. Do you have a question? If you do, please feel free to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to my school website. There you can ask your question and a solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now on to question 25. So again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option from the list provided. He arrived dash to see his family leave for the countryside. Option A, in time, B, timely, C, late, D, with. So the answer to this question is option A, in time. Okay? He arrived just in time to see his family leave for the countryside. It cannot be late because if he arrived late, he would not be there to see his family leave the countryside. Okay? So the answer to this question is in time. He arrived in time to see his family leave the countryside. So the answer to this question is option A, in time. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? If you do, please go down to the comment section below, indicate the question number and the solution you would like to share. Question 26. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. You can travel on your own dash. A, isn't it? B, wouldn't you? C, can't you? D, shouldn't you? So the answer to this question is option C, can't you? When we are talking about question tags, the tag has to be similar to what you have at the beginning of the sentence. The can will be converted to its negative form, right? It becomes can't. Then you have the you. So the answer to this question is option C, can't you? Question 27. Again, we are to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. Our culture does not allow one to dash when an elderly person is speaking. A, cut off. B, cut off. C, cut in. And D, cut on. So the answer to this question is option C, to cut in. To cut in means to interrupt someone. Our culture doesn't allow someone to interrupt an elderly person when he or she is talking. So option C is the answer. For cut off, you make use of cut off when you are talking about when you are severing someone's access to something, as in to cut off an electricity supply to a building. Okay? Then cut off is not a phrasal verb, but you can say you can have a cut of something. Okay? You just use it in a normal sentence. Cut on is not a phrasal verb. So the answer to this question is option C, cutting, which means to interrupt someone. Question 28. Again, we have to fill in the gap with the most appropriate option. Raffle draws, like gambling, often end in a dash for me. A, lost. B, loss. C, lose. And D, lose. Okay, so for this particular sentence, you need a noun to fill in the gap because we have the article A in front of it. So we're looking for a noun. Option A is not a noun, it's an adjective. Lost. Something is lost, it's an adjective. It's qualifying something. Or the lost brothers. Lost is qualifying brothers. Then option B, lost, is a noun, right? It can fill in that gap. It means that the person understands that raffle draws, just like gambling, ends in a loss. That means he loses out on, his profits at the end of the day. So it ends in a loss for him. So option C has lose, right? Lose is an adjective again. When something is loose, maybe the laces of your shoe are untied, you say it is loose, okay? It has nothing to do with this particular context. Then option D, lose, to lose something. It's a verb, okay? He is destined to lose the match. So that is a verb. So a verb cannot fill in that particular context. So the only option that fills in that context is option B, loss. Question 29. Select the option that best explains the information conveyed in the sentence. If it were here, it could be more fun. Option A, it did not show up and so the occasion lacked much fun. B, it was being expected to supply more fun. Option C, there was not fun because it was not present. And option D, it was expected but did not show up to liven the occasion. So, this particular sentence, if we were here, it could be more fun, means that it wasn't there. But if it were there, assuming it was there, it could be more fun. So that means there was fun, but it could be more fun if it was present. It wasn't there, but if it was there, it would be more fun. There was fun, but it could have been more fun if it was there. So that's the explanation for the sentence. Now let's look at the option to see which one of them means exactly that. So option A, it did not show up and so the occasion lacked much fun. It did not show up. They said it wasn't there. That means it did not show up, okay? So the occasion lacked much fun. The fun wasn't as much, right? Because it wasn't there. Because it did not show up. That explains the sentence exactly. Because it wasn't there, but if it was there, it could have been more fun, right? The occasion lacked much fun because it wasn't there. Option B says it was being expected to supply more fun. There was nothing about expectation in the sentence. They said nothing about expectation. There was not fun because it was not present. There was fun actually. You can see that in the sentence. But it could have been more fun if it was there. But the fact that they said there was not fun means that can't be the answer to this question. In option D, it was expected but did not show up to liven the occasion. Again, there is nothing about expectation in the sentence. They did not say it was expected to be there. But assuming it was there, it would have been more fun. So the best answer to this question is option A. It did not show up and so the occasion lacked much fun. Question 30. Again, we have to select the option that explains the information conveyed in the sentence. Though he was an elected representative, he often takes a rather jaundiced view of our problems. Option A, it takes a rather hazy view of our problems. B, it takes an unfavorable position concerning our problems. C, it takes a rather forceful view of our problems. And D, it takes a sickly view of our problems. So this particular expression means that in spite of the fact that he is an elected representative, it takes a rather jaundiced view. Jaundiced means cynical, biased view, right? a view that is different from other people in society. That's what jaundice means. Okay, so we're going to look for something that means exactly that. For option A, it takes a rather hazy view of our problems. Hazy means cloudy. Okay, so it's not appropriate for this context. It has nothing to do with taking a stance that doesn't align with the public. Okay, option B says it takes an unfavorable position concerning our problems. That sounds more like jaundice, because it's talking about a view that doesn't align with the public. It's unfavorable. It doesn't favor the people, right? He's an elected representative. His views are supposed to favor the people. Option C says it takes a rather forceful view of our problems. Forceful means aggressive, right? It has nothing to do with this particular sentence, right? When you're talking about jaundice, it has nothing to do with aggression. They're talking about a position that doesn't favor the people. Then option D, it takes a sickly view of our problems. Sickly means it has to do with illness, right? It has nothing to do with this particular context. So the answer to this question is option B. It takes an unfavorable position concerning our problems. So we've come to the end of this video lesson. I believe you're enjoying the content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.